Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today in this video, I want to see if I can make Dugtrio work in the most chaotic competitive Pokemon VGC format in the history of the game. This was shot in the Series 13 VGC format, which allows for any number of mythical and restricted Pokemon, and so I got a fun request to see if I could build the team around Dugtrio. Now, Dugtrio is not exactly a very common Pokemon in competitive VGC. It's really frail, but it does have a couple of redeeming factors. First of all, base 120 speed, allowing you to actually outspeed a fair amount of Pokemon that you're often going to run into, especially if you throw a Choice Scarf on it. It also has access to a really unique ability in Arena Trap, which allows you to trap your opponent in. And finally, it synergizes really nicely with a couple of restricted Pokemon in the Series 13 format, such as Weakness Policy Solgaleo. So my goal is to just have some fun here, and one thing that's unique about this video is it's the first time I'm incorporating editing onto the channel. For 8 years of making content, I've never really hired any editors before, but as we go into Scarlet and Violet, I want to continue making the content that I've been doing for years, but I also want to try to create content that's more accessible by a general audience, that can be consumed by, more people than just hardcore VGC fans. But my goal is to stay true to myself and not alienate any of the original fans that have come out to this channel. So I'd really appreciate any feedback down in the comment section below for things that you enjoyed and things that maybe you think we can improve on. This is definitely going to be a learning process, but I'm so excited to refine the process as we go into Scarlet and Violet. So thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please share support by leaving a like. The video is timestamped accordingly in the description below, and let's jump into things. So basically, I started with Dugtrio because as a part of a series that I'm doing for Beast Coast called Trainer's Choice, I take suggestions from viewers and basically build fun and wacky teams around fun and wacky strategies. And so Choice Scarf Dugtrio was essentially the recommendation, and I was like, okay, this is a really interesting Pokemon. Now, when you use obscure Pokemon, you essentially want to look into their niches and figure out what actually works about them, right? So if you look at Dugtrio, you're like, okay, its base stats overall are really mediocre, but it's got two main redeeming points. The first one is that it gets Arena Trap, which traps all non-airborne Pokemon. It's just really valuable. Trapping is very good in VGC. Gothitelle, for example, and Mega Gengar have been very prominent Pokemon in previous years of VGC, and that's very much driven by their ability to trap the opponent in. Second of all, Dugtrio has a really nice base speed of base 120, and in this format, that's actually a base speed that most players don't cover for in their teams, right? And so it allows you to outspeed things like Thundurus, Tornadus, Charizard, Kyogre, Groudon, and a lot of the restricted Pokemon as well. On top of that, it means with Choice Scarf, you actually outspeed max speed Regieleki, which is really refreshing because there are very few Pokemon that can actually outspeed max speed Regieleki, even when they have a Choice Scarf, which is really crazy to say. So Dugtrio was the natural starting point, and I was like, okay, we're not going to use this as an offensive Pokemon, but let's use it to enable some really strong restricted Pokemon. So the moveset initially was Bulldoze and Rock Tomb. Those are two means of speed control. Bulldoze is really nice with a lot of the restricteds that I'll talk about in just a bit. Memento, and then Stealth Rock. Basically, the idea is that Dugtrio is not really going to deal that much damage anyway because it's only base 100 attacks, so might as well support it with some other interesting attacks, right? Like Stealth Rock, we don't use very often in VGC, but with Choice Scarf, there are situations where we can just set it up on turn 1 immediately, and that can be really valuable in breaking focus sashes on Pokemon that are in the back, or actually dealing significant damage to things that are, weak to it. And then the idea behind Memento is that after Dugtrio, uses Bulldoze or Rock Tomb to enable its partners, it doesn't really have too much more to do, so if I find an opportunity to switch it out, I can maybe bring it back in and then use Memento to really shut some Pokemon down. But basically, I wanted to build around Choice Scarf and Bulldoze, and so I was like, what are the things that can best take advantage of it? Naturally, a weakness policy user like Solgaleo was what immediately jumped to my mind. I've used Choice Scarf Groudon with weakness policy Solgaleo back in Series 12, and so the idea is somewhat similar here, where you outspeed your opponent, catch them off guard. It's even better because of Arena Trap. Solgaleo is a Pokemon that really is designed to try to win games as quickly as possible and make use of its Dynamax as best as it can, and so when you're trapping your opponent's Pokemon in, it's just a lot more valuable because it's easier to pick up KOs, and so this was naturally the starting point. I also wanted to find other good restricted Pokemon to pair Dugtrio with, and so I had Yveltal and Palkia. The idea is with Yveltal, right, this is immune to Bulldoze, and so I don't have to worry about dropping my own speed. Life Orb Yveltal is just really nice. I feel like one of the things with Yveltal is a lot of people expect like Assault Vest or Black Glasses, and I'm actually running Heat Wave here, so we have the potential to like drop my opponent's speed, and then Yveltal can, nuke like a Zacian with Life Orb Max Flare, for example. And Bulldoze does really significant chip damage because, once again, at the end of the day, like, yes, it's only base 100 attack, but that's actually enough to, chip away at things, especially into things that are weak into it, right? And so that was another Pokemon I added. This gives me a little bit better typing synergy as well, so I'm not only weak to like ground type attacks, right? Otherwise, Groudon can be annoying. And then Palkia was the third restricted that made sense. I thought about a telepathy user. Dialga and Palkia both made sense to me, right? But I wanted Palkia here, mainly because I already felt like I had, Solgaleo covering the steel typing, and so I didn't want Dialga. And Palkia is a little bit faster as well. So the idea is Dugtrio Palkia, you can go for Bulldoze, and then just go for like Max Geyser, Max Warmoon, or Max Lightning. Thunder exists here to give us a slightly better matchup into things like Yveltal and Kyogre, for example. Finally, to round out the team, I've got Talonflame and Kyogre. So I thought about Whimsicott, right? Whimsicott's so common in VGC Series 13, but I actually think Talonflame's really underrated, and the theory behind Talonflame is that it's faster than Whimsicott and can get a KO onto it with dual Wing Beat thanks to Sharp Beak. And so even with Focus Sash on Whimsicott, if they don't have any bulk, you can just get a one-hit KO onto them, or I guess technically a two-hit KO onto them before they even move. Couple downsides: if Whimsicott has bulk, that's not guaranteed to KO, and then dual Wing Beat can also miss. But basically, in my head, I was like, okay, I'm revolving around a strategy that relies on Choice Scarf, a really frail Choice Scarf Pokemon, right? And so if my opponent just leads something like, I don't know, Whimsicott, Kyogre, Tailwind, Water Spell, Dugtrio is completely useless. So I was like, let me find a way to beat opposing Whimsicotts while also enabling my own speed, and so Talonflame's perfect for that. Can KO opposing Whimsicotts while also Tailwinding. Flame Charge exists here to activate Weakness Policy on Solgaleo without potentially burning myself, because a lot of other Talonflame attacks just risk a 10-20% chance of burn on a Solgaleo. The last Pokemon here is just Choice Specs Kyogre, which synergizes very nicely with Talonflame. You can just go for something like Tailwind plus Specs Water Spout, and there are very few Pokemon, other than like Gastrodon, for example, that can actually take this. It also allows you to go with something like Dugtrio Kyogre and just Rock Tomb into Water Spout. So the idea behind this team is generally either leading Dugtrio, so Dugtrio Solgaleo, Dugtrio Yveltal, Dugtrio Palkia, or Dugtrio Kyogre, really any of the restricteds, but Solgaleo in particular, and try to overwhelm your opponent with offense, especially in turns 1 through 3. But another mode, and then clean up the game, for example, with Talonflame Kyogre in the back, or go with Talonflame Kyogre in the early game and then clean up the game with Dugtrio Solgaleo, or really Dugtrio with any of the restricteds. You have a lot of flexibility with Dynamax here, Solgaleo most of the time, but Palkia and Yveltal are also both very good max options. So yeah, I've talked about the team long enough. Let's get into the battles. I don't know, something like Clefairy Charizard scary here, but I'm kind of down for just Dugtrio plus Solgaleo, because we can also set up Stealth Rock potentially, which I think is fun. And Bulldoze in general here is really valuable next to the Solgaleo. And then I can also Rock Tomb Charizard. I guess where things get interesting is that they actually just lead Clefairy plus Charizard. But in the back, I think we can go with Talonflame and Kyogre and just set up like a Tailwind and then sweep with Water Spout with Choice Specs. So it's time for Dugtrio. Let's see what we can do with it. Clefairy and Eternatus. Okay, I'm more than okay with that. So this is cool for a couple of reasons. One, with this lead, I trap my opponent in, and so Dugtrio is going to be able to just go for Bulldoze immediately and activate Weakness Policy on Solgaleo. Two, Eternatus is not really that scary in this current setup. So yeah, we're just going to go for a Bulldoze immediately. Dynamax. Like, the thing about Dugtrio is when you think about it, it's such a frail Pokemon, and so, like, you don't think you get that much value out of the ability, but that's exactly why Scarf Dugtrio plus Solgaleo is so nice, because it's like, oh, not only do I trap you in, but I can enable one of my strongest attackers in the game immediately, and decrease your speed, and activate the Weakness Policy on Solgaleo. Okay, Clefairy does just opt for Protect, that's fine. So we couldn't KO the Eternatus here, but honestly, like, I don't mind this too much, because I don't think Eternatus is really doing too much to scare me. But it ends up being, yeah, pretty sweet play by my opponent. It's honestly really nice damage onto the Eternatus as well. I'm curious how much the +2 Steel Spike Brew Protect does into Clefairy. The cool thing is now I can actually also just switch out the Dugtrio and get value out of it later on. Like, even bring it back in, set up a Stealth Rock, or go for something like a Memento. Okay, so we bring Clefairy to just about half. Ah, it's actually going to be the Cosmic Power set. Okay. I don't mind that too much, because it doesn't fare super well against the Solgaleo set that we have. Like, this is meant to, like, stall out for a super long time, but you don't get that much value out of it. I don't want to keep bulldozing here. I'm only doing damage to myself, so I'm down to switch out into Talonflame now. I can set up a Tailwind with it. I wonder if +2 Max Quick would have KO'd the bulky Eternatus through Friend Guard. I'm not sure. But this will give me a special defense boost. They're doing a nice job stalling out my Dynamax so far. But then they still have to fight against a +2 regular Solgaleo, which is actually fairly strong into my opponent's team with Wild Charge, Stun Steel Strike, and Earthquake. So they're at +2 defense and special defense. They continue to heal back up. A +2 Max Quake now probably doesn't KO Eternatus, but it'll still do a hefty amount of damage. But the thing is, I expect them to recover as well. But the thing is, Eternatus isn't really dealing damage, so I'm not as worried. Blastoise comes out, that's fine. Kind of expect Blastoise to max in this position. They actually don't end up committing a Dynamax. That's fine. I don't really know how Eternatus is going to beat Solgaleo in the long run. Like, that's my main question right now. Also curious what my opponent wants to commit Dynamaxing now, because I didn't really get that much value, truthfully, out of my max here. I think it could have been a little bit better. But if their last one is Zacian, like, I can just pretty easily click Tailwind into Earthquake right now. And when I see this Cosmic Power Black Sludge stuff, I expect it to be like Cosmic Power Recover, kind of a more stall-oriented set, like Dynamax Cannon, but that doesn't really hurt us too much. I'm okay, like, targeting around it right now because it's not really threatening me too much. Let's see what their final one is. Charizard, Venusaur, or Zacian. It's actually Zacian, so my opponent just did not get the opportunity to Dynamax in this game. I think Blastoise should have maxed there. Not really sure what they were going for, given that it wasn't a fake out onto Talonflame, but neither of their Pokemon can max at this point in the match. And also, Dugtrio with Bodos is actually a decent damage in this endgame as well, but I'm willing to just go for Tailwind now, and then Earthquake. The game probably could have been a little bit smoother if I just launched Max Quake onto Eternatus on turn 1, but I like the idea of, like, forcing Clefairy to protect, and if it does, like, I think what can be tricky about Clefairy is that, like, if it just stays around for a little bit longer, right, like, let's say I KO Eternatus, they get a free switch into Charizard, that's what I was worried about. They didn't end up even having Charizard in the back, but that was one of my primary concerns. So, we get Tailwind up safely. It's very likely going to end up being a 4v1 against the Eternatus. I don't think Earthquake will really deal that much here. Yeah, it's taking it decently well, but I've got a Choice Specs Kyogre in the back just waiting to come out. We've only seen Cosmic Power and Sludge Bomb so far with Black Sludge. My other question is whether or not you even have Flamethrower, but I am at +1 special defense, so you shouldn't do that much damage to us. Now I'm actually down to just Flame Charge into Zacian and Earthquake to guarantee the knockout onto it. I said guarantee, but I don't know if it's like max HP, max defense Zacian. I don't know if we actually KO, but we should be in pretty good shape. And even if Eternatus has Flamethrower, yeah, like, I think what could be interesting is using Dugtrio, setting up Memento onto the Eternatus so that its damage output is just substantially reduced. So then it's really just fishing for maybe a crit Flamethrower. And if their moveset is like, I don't know, Dynamax Cannon, Flamethrower, Sludge Bomb, then it means you're not running Recover, which seems kind of weird. So my question is whether or not you have a way to even hit the Solgaleo. That's why I was okay ignoring it in this game, because I was like, I can use Solgaleo to really beat everything else in this match, but beautiful damage from Talonflame there. Gives me a speed boost, not really that crucial. But sets the Earthquake up from Solgaleo here. And that should just KO the Zacian. Beautiful. I mean, the Eternatus with all its bulk right now is fairly impressive, honestly. But it's not really scaring me in terms of damage, so I don't really care. But they do reveal Flamethrower. Okay. So it's another big reveal. They're looking for a burn right now. Okay. I was very afraid I just, like, willed the burn into existence. But we're okay. I'm down to just dual Wing Beat into this and Earthquake. And basically say, okay, if you want to heal, so be it, but you gotta, you know, show it to me right now. So my question is whether or not their last attack is Dynamax Cannon. Also, dual Wing Beat gives us extra chances to get a critical hit. A single crit at any point in this game should just end the game as well. So I'm okay with this. I'm waiting also kind of for a free switch into Dugtrio, and then with Dugtrio I can actually even use Memento, but I think we'll actually just get the KO onto Eternatus next turn, and there's Recover. Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do here is, I think they're going to go for Recover again. I'm going to bring in Dugtrio, and, like, right now their incentive is to target the Solgaleo. So I'm going to protect Solgaleo, then I'm going to go for Memento onto the Eternatus to make sure that they can't deal as much damage into us, and then we also get to switch into Kyogre subsequently later on, which allows me to also set up the Rain so that you deal even less damage to Solgaleo. You'll be, you know, -2 Flamethrower in Rain, essentially. But nicely done on there, and they actually go for another Cosmic Power. Okay. The thing about strategies like this is that it is like a single critical hit at any point ends the game, right? We've also confirmed their moveset. That actually is the best moveset for them, in my opinion. So I'm going to go for the Memento here onto Eternatus and just Earthquake. And a moveset of Sludge Bomb and Flamethrower at -2 just doesn't really scare me damage-wise here. But I'm really glad. I mean, I brought Dugtrio out. I got the Bulldoze combination off. I also got the Memento off. But yeah, I didn't expect it to be this Cosmic Power set. And so if I had anticipated that, like, maybe it would have just been better to Max Quick. I was thinking they'd just be, like, more offensive. But now I get a single target Earthquake onto Eternatus as well. But yeah, I'm not really dealing that much right now, which is definitely scary. Let's see how much -2 Flamethrower into +1 special defense does. 109 to 71. Okay. No burn either. Like, the reality is now I have two fairly powerful Pokemon, and yes, I'm playing around Recover, but, like, you can't protect at any point, so you're like, And you have to essentially keep clicking recover, and a single critical hit will end the game. So while this game will drag on for a little bit longer, I'm in super good shape. Yep. You just got to be a little bit patient. Ice Beam and some Steel Strike. But to my opponent's credit, I mean, they've made Cosmic Power Eternatus look really, really good here. And partially it's because I was willing to ignore it. One, because I wasn't sure what its moveset was even going to be. But yeah, now I can just Sun Steel Strike. And, like, we're just going to keep chipping away at it, essentially, right? Because I've got Choice Specs Ice Beam here as well. So I don't expect this to KO, right? But, yeah, like, you have to keep clicking recover. A single crit, single freeze just ends the game. They actually don't even go for a recover here, so that'll just immediately end the game. But this is the thing, right? Like, yeah, Eternatus is nice and bulky, but it's just out on the field for forever, but it's not really applying that much pressure. I think the one thing my opponent could have done differently, given the 4 Pokemon they brought in this game, was obviously go for Dynamax with the Blastoise. I'm curious if, without Wakandberry, I would expect it to survive a +2 Max Lightning, actually, but I don't know that damage calc super well off the top of my head. But yeah, Sunsteel Strike and Ice Beam will just finish things off. And Memento was actually really nice for us in this endgame to feel a little bit more comfortable beating Eternatus, because I knew its damage output would be just pretty insignificant, right? Especially after getting the special defense boost, but yeah. That was definitely an interesting one. And both of us essentially playing with like Series 12 teams here instead of Series 13, where we essentially brought 2 restricteds. But the lack of Dynamax made this a lot easier. But if you look at my opponent's team, they only had 1 Pokemon that could even max in those 4. Again, I mean, Clefairy could max, but it's not going to do anything. So it kind of has to be the Blastoise. But yeah, that's Dugtrio. We get the Bulldoze off and we get the Memento off. And so in our very first match, it's already 2 of the 4 moves used. I'm already fairly happy about that. Okay, for this one, we've got Grimmsnarl, Zeraora, Yveltal, Kyogre, Zacian, and Zapdos. I'm kind of down to give Dugtrio Solgaleo as the lead a shot here once again. And then one can't help but think that Palkia is a decent Dynamax option in this one. But I really like this Dugtrio Solgaleo lead with Talonflame Kyogre in the back. I think one other thing to be careful about, though, is not knowing my opponent's Grimmsnarl set here. Kyogre Zapdos. Okay. Well, you're trapped in right now. It's probably Scarf Kyogre or the Zapdos is just slower, but based off abilities there would make sense. If it's Scarf Kyogre, it gets really interesting because I can actually just Bulldoze, drop your speed, Dynamax, and Lightning here into Kyogre. And you're trapped in right now, so let's just do it. Let's go for it. Try to blow it up. I'm hoping here we have the element of surprise with the Choice Scarf on Dugtrio, so like their Scarf Kyogre, they try to just blow us up with Water Spout, we just drop their speed, KO them immediately, set up Electric Terrain. Setting up Electric Terrain is pretty critical here as well because it means I'll do more damage with Max Lightning in subsequent turns, which is really valuable into the Yveltal that my opponent potentially has in the back. Okay, beautiful. They're not going to max or switch out. Makes me wonder what Zapdos is going for. Now I outspeed and just blow it up. I went for Lightning there to also cover for the option of Kyogre Dynamaxing. Like, it's tempting to maybe go for something like Max Quake, get a special defense boost, but I don't think it's that critical right now. And if my opponent had Dynamax Kyogre there, we would just put ourselves into such a favorable position. They actually just go for Heat Wave. Okay. Dugtrio avoids it, hoping to avoid a burn here. That's all that we really care about. Nice. Turns out the Zapdos just isn't max speed here. So it's Light Orb Zapdos, but it's slower than Solgaleo, which is really nice, right? Because it means I can just max Lightning Bat to blow it up. I think if it's Yveltal coming in here, things get interesting, but it's actually just going to be Zacian, which I think puts my opponent into a really tough spot right now. Because actually, what we can do is just use the Dugtrio trap, right? Just go for a Bulldoze and then a Max Quake onto the Zacian slot. What's my alternative? Because I don't want Zacian to actually get a free Behemoth Blade off here. So I think they always need to protect here Dynamax and Airstream, but even if they do that, you give me a free switch in a Talonflame, I Tailwind, Max Quake your Zacian for a KO, and then I've set up Choice Specs Kyogre in the back for success. Also, given that the Zapdos was just slower than their Kyogre, maybe it is just not very fast Zapdos, but I still want to assume Choice Scarf Kyogre, especially given the lack of a Dynamax on turn 1. If I had Max Rockfall here, I would have probably been willing to go for Bulldoze Rockfall, but they're not going to protect Zacian. Beautiful. This also gives me a special defense boost, so I don't really care about Zapdos Airstreaming here. Nice, now outspeed Zacian. Also, like, Dugtrio's damage in a Zacian, you know? Don't count it out. That was 40% right there just with Bulldoze. We're going for Quake here because it's super effective. We know they can't switch out, so even if they protect, we deal a lot of damage, and more importantly, get a special defense boost, so I don't have to worry about something like, you know, Max Flare. Well, Rain is up anyway, so Max Flare shouldn't be KOing us, but yeah. And they actually do just go for Max Flare, which is even better for us because it means you do not get a speed boost. And with the special defense boost, that practically does no damage. I think what was really huge for us here was just trapping their lead in, though. Like, I'd say I very much had a favorable lead matchup relative to my opponent. They had Yveltal in the back this whole time. That's interesting. Because if you had that, it would have been better, I think, to have just brought Yveltal out first and Dynamax that over the Zacian, in my opinion. Dugtrio's not really offering me much at this point, but, like, I don't actually want to switch into either of these. It's kind of an awkward spot to be in. Yeah, I think here I'm actually willing to just Bulldoze and then Max Guard. The reason is because, like, I want Talonflame to guarantee the Tailwind up, so I don't want to switch in Talonflame. But I also don't want to switch in Kyogre. So I'm hoping that my opponent essentially just knocks me out for me. Yveltal actually reveals Protect. That's a big reveal, by the way, because it means that they're not Assault Vested, which is good to know. And they actually just flare into Solgaleo. That's actually slightly awkward for me, I would argue. Because if I switch into Talonflame there, this would have been... Well, I wouldn't say a guaranteed win, I guess, because they get Life Orb Sucker Punch, right? This is really weird right now, actually. But I think because this is the last one of Zapdos' Dynamax, right? So I just get Tailwind plus Specs Water Spout after this turn. So I'm actually going to stay in here, as weird as that seems, and just Bulldoze, and then Wild Charge into Yveltal. If they're not Max Speed Yveltal, or they don't have Sucker Punch here... Okay, it looks like they are going to have Sucker Punch, unfortunately for me. And that is actually just enough to KO. That's fine. Yep. And there's... Oh, they actually go for Flare again rather than Airstream. Okay. Nice. I was worried Dugtrio would be bulky enough to survive that after getting a special defense boost, but the answer is no, which is actually good for us here. So now I bring in Talonflame, I bring in Kyogre. I think the one interesting thing in this end game is whether or not I want to commit to Water Spout, Ice Beam, Origin Pulse, or Thunder. They're actually all potential options. The main thing to note here is that Yveltal Sucker Punch did do a sizable amount into us, and then Zapdos Thunderbolt could finish off Kyogre. I still want to assume that the Kyogre was Choice Scarfed. But I saw Solgaleo outspeed Zapdos, so it's kind of weird, right? I think I'm going to go for Origin Pulse here. Because I want to cover for the option of one Pokemon protecting here. And it's Specs Origin Pulse in Rain. So Tailwind ensures I outspeed both of their Pokemon. I do miss on the Zapdos. Okay. And they didn't Sucker Punch here, so Water Spout would have just won me the game. Okay, it does one-shot Yveltal with a crit. It probably isn't KOing without the crit here, so now the question is whether or not I expect to survive a Thunderbolt, potentially. But they actually have Thunder onto the Kyogre. That's going to be enough for a KO, most likely. We survive on 2. How did that not KO? Holy cow. Yeah, basically my fear was if I Water Spout there, right? Because if I don't miss the Zapdos, Origin Pulse should just KO there. But I didn't want to Ice Beam into a Protect and then have Yveltal Sucker Punch me as well, was my fear. They still need to hit the Origin Pulse to win the game here. I actually just can't believe Kyogre survived Thunder there. Wonder if they're not fully max special attack EV. Anyway, my point is, like, I could Ice Beam into either slot. It's Choice Specs Ice Beam. I could go for Water Spout. But based off how much it did into Solgaleo, like... I don't know, I was worried that it was Black Glass's Yveltal because it's not Assault Vest or Life Orb, so Black Glasses actually makes a lot of sense. And then my fear is if you're Black Glasses, you Sucker Punch me, then you put me in a range where then a Thunderbolt just KOs me, and then I don't KO you with Specs Water Spout. So I figured, okay, Origin Pulse here, even if Zapdos protects, it's guaranteed damage onto the Yveltal slot. We get fairly lucky with the crit, which essentially makes up, I would say, for the miss, because if we just hit Zapdos there, we should win. So this endgame was a roller coaster of emotions where I miss, but then... they don't Sucker Punch, I miss, but then they have Thunder, but like we actually still survive, which was crazy. So yeah, that was really intense though. I feel like given how good my lead was in this game, it shouldn't have boiled down to this point. But what was awkward was essentially me being out, like having Dugtrio out on the field and trying to hope that my opponent would KO me because I was like, oh, I have this really good end game with Talonflame and Kyogre. But yeah, like. If Origin Pulse were 100%, accuracy there, I feel like we basically had it locked up, but because it wasn't, it was actually fairly scary. And we missed and we were still able to win, but the crit essentially made up for the miss, because I think without the crit there, Yveltal survives, and then they probably just get a Snarl off, right? And then I probably lose there. So, yeah, that was one of the biggest swings, like back and forth swings for a turn I've seen in a while. But Dugtrio gets to come out, and yeah, I'd say its main value in this game was dropping Kyogre speed immediately. So even if it were Scarf Kyogre, making it useless, and then trapping my opponent in so they couldn't switch out either. But I think in this game, my opponent could have maybe brought Yveltal out first and threatened me a little bit more rather than Zacian, because they just brought Zacian out and then didn't protect it either. So yeah. Anyway, let's look for another. Definitely cool core of Pokemon here. Not really that common. I don't love my Yveltal matchup, and I think the fact they have Gastrodon is actually deeply concerning for me. Scarf Dugtrio, part of its appeal is that it outspeeds. Like, I don't know, Dugtrio Yveltal's elite here is actually very intriguing to me with Kyogre in the back, and then... Honestly, I think I want to just bring Palkia here, because I'm actually really concerned about how I beat Gastrodon, and if I bring Talonflame, then I'll have Talonflame Kyogre in the end game, and neither of those actually really do much into Gastrodon, whereas Palkia can at least Spatial Rend pretty consistently into it. I'm going to go with Mimikyu and Yveltal. Okay. That works for me. The main question is what I want to do on turn 1 still. I think going for something like Rock Tomb onto Mimikyu to break Disguise, because I don't want Trick Room to get set up here, I think. So, like, I could pretty easily go for Rock Tomb and then into a Max Darkness here, which also gives me a special defense drop onto Yveltal, which is valuable given the Kyogre in the back and Palkia in the back. They're not going to Dynamax either. Okay, works for me. Wondering what Yveltal goes for here. It could be Tailwind on Yveltal, which actually would be pretty bad for me. I thought about Airstreaming here, but I was worried about Mimikyu being max HP, max special defense, surviving, and then getting a Trick Room up. That would be an absolute disaster for me. I cannot allow Trick Room to ever go up against me, right? Given this lead combination, and given what I have in the back. So, yep, that's going to cleanly knock out Mimikyu, get a special defense drop on Yveltal. Beautiful. Now I can actually Rock Tomb the Yveltal in the subsequent turn, so... Bulldoze also would have worked here, actually, but I wanted to lock myself into Rock Tomb because I could have more value with it into Yveltal later on, but Foul Play probably just KOs us here. Goodbye, Dugtrio. Thank you for coming out. I don't mind bringing in Kyogre right now because, like, Yveltal can dunk on Gastrodon. I think Regieleki actually becomes really scary here, but that's Groudon. Okay, that works for me. And the reason I'm okay with this is because I've got choice specs on the Kyogre. So yeah, I lose the Weather War, but it's honestly fine. I guess what's interesting right now is from my opponent's perspective, like, who do you really want to Dynamax? I'm down to go for Specs Water Spout, though, and then Airstream this turn into the Yveltal slot. Because I know Yveltal has a special defense drop, right? So I'm trying to capitalize off that and, like, essentially KO it. And an Yveltal Dynamax doesn't really scare me here either, because I think I've got more of the momentum right now. Cool. They max Groudon. I guess where things get concerning here is if Yveltal protects. Because if you actually have Protect here and you go for it, then I'm in a slightly more awkward position. Oh, they actually go for Sucker Punch. That's actually a really strong option as well. Okay. I'm actually concerned now that with the Sucker Punch, I don't KO with Specs Water Spout. Yeah, I'm not sure I do. Maybe it was correct to just switch Kyogre out and then bring it back in so that I win the Weather War. But I guess yeah, I should have respected Sucker Punch just a little bit more there. Okay, we still KO Yveltal, though, so that's good to see. That was a crit, though. That may have mattered, especially if they were Assault Vested. I couldn't tell super well from the damage calc from Airstream. This is getting kind of scary, though. I mean, they're going to Max Quake here. They have an extra turn of Dynamax relative to me, right? So I do get a free switch into Palkia, which is very good for us because I can decrease their special defense on Groudon, but I can't KO it immediately, which is scary. Leftovers Groudon, though. Okay, when I see leftovers, I normally think it's like bulk upsets. Honestly, I'm happy to see that. Also confirms you're not Assault Vested on that. Ah, it's actually Solgaleo as their last one. Okay. Solgaleo. Life Orb Max Darkness should just one-shot it here, so I'm down to just Spatial Rend into Groudon, get some free damage into it, and then Darkness into the Solgaleo. Yep, Solgaleo just goes for the obvious Protect. Maybe it was worth predicting that this turn. Because I could have gotten a lot of free damage on a Groudon with the Max Darkness into a Spatial Rend combination there. That almost just one-shot Solgaleo through Protect. Jeez. That was another crit. That would explain why. Okay. Spatial Rend connects. Decent damage. They go for Quake. I mean, I expect to survive with Palkia here, but I suppose if I don't survive, that's really bad. Okay, yeah. 16 is all I really need here, I think, so that's okay. I mean, 2 Hydro Pumps should KO the Groudon, right? The other question is who Groudon targets here. But I think I'm down to go for the Hydro Pump here, because they might just knock out... Oh, I have Heat Wave as well. Do I want to risk missing, though, is the thing. I'm going to lean towards no here. Because if I miss Solgaleo and allow it to get an attack off, it's a complete disaster for me. So I don't think that risk is worth it. Okay, we're going to target Solgaleo there. Get the KO. Hydro Pump is going to connect there. Okay, puts Groudon at around 25%. They go for Rockfall. Let's see if this one-shots Yveltal. It does. Actually, if Groudon just has Protect now, they win the game, right? What went wrong for me in this battle? It was the Sucker Punch from Yveltal. I just needed to switch out Kyogre in that position, but I think I got a little bit greedy, expecting to do more damage with Water Spout there, and just didn't respect Sucker Punch, and that was my bad. So, yeah, they're going to win off Sandstorm damage here unless they don't have Protect for some weird reason. But they have Protect. Well played. Very well played. I think, you know, I certainly had the tools to win this one, so I don't feel that bad. My opponent just found that really nice Sucker Punch play. And yeah, I think if I just switched Kyogre out into Palkia that turn, I would have put myself up for a really good end game. Because I would have been able to just KO the Yveltal. I'd get Palkia in for free. We can use Palkia to like deal some chip damage on a Groudon and Solgaleo, and then Kyogre just needs to come out and just click Specs Origin Pulse or Water Spell to end the game. But I think the main thing is like their Solgaleo could potentially outspeed my Kyogre, so I would need to position it correctly for it. But yeah, the Sucker Punch was the game changer there because it just meant that my damage output into Groudon was greatly reduced. And yeah, in my head I was like, oh, I don't really need to switch here because I've got Palkia in the back. But switching would have been a lot stronger of an option for me there. So got a little bit greedy and got punished for it. But yeah, nicely done by my opponent. Okay, this one is Charizard, Regieleki, Yveltal, Groudon, Gastrodon, Grimmsnarl. So I think it's the team Wolf built really at the start of Series 12. I think Dugtrio is really interesting here because it can outspeed Regieleki and Rock Tomb. I think we probably need to play towards Palkia here to beat Gastrodon. Low-key interested in the idea of just going Dugtrio Kyogre, because if they don't need Gastrodon, I can start dunking on things with this. And then in the back, Palkia plus Yveltal. Well, this is interesting. Because I can certainly bulldoze the Regieleki. They could also max charge. Like, there's so many options for them right now. Like, this becomes really interesting if I actually just start this game off with a Rock Tomb on a Charizard and an Origin Pulse. Because I expect to survive an attack from Regieleki, but I guess they could also Electro Web my Kyogre. Do you think it would be kind of funny to see us blow up a Dynamax Charizard, though? So I'm going to try to go for it. But they could Dynamax Kyogre here. Sorry, Dynamax Regieleki. Okay, they're not going to Dynamax either option. We got a one-hit KO with Dugtrio. Okay, that's a wrap. This is over. And we dodge, but they dodge as well. Okay. That turn did not play out how I expected it to, but in the end, I will gladly take it because I think the worst case would have been a lot worse for me there, which was then potentially Dynamaxing the Charizard slot. I can Rock Tomb Regieleki now. I think I want to switch Kyogre out. Probably into Yveltal because I think Kyogre plus Palkia synergize a lot better into this endgame. Although I have to keep in mind like Gastrodon can be my opponent's final Pokemon, right? I just can't believe I got to see Dugtrio pick up a one-hit KO. That's already good enough for me. Oh, interesting. They're not going to Dynamax with either Pokemon here. Okay, so I get Rock Tomb off into Regieleki. Could be a Swords Dance from Groudon, maybe? They're just going to Thunderbolt into Yveltal. I'm actually okay with that because this just grants me a free switch into Kyogre. They're actually, I think, done for now. Oh, they actually just go for Blades. Never mind. I was thinking, oh, this should KO us. Yeah. I was thinking if they go for like any setup-oriented attack, then I just bring Kyogre back out and I just Rock Tomb Regieleki plus Water Spout. Now I bring Kyogre and Palkia out next to each other. You would expect Groudon to switch out in this position. So in this position, I want to go for Spatial Rend into Origin Pulse, I think. Oh, they actually just stay in. Okay, I mean, this should just be a double knockout then, unless I miss Origin Pulse, which I've already missed once, so we'll see. I do need a double connect here because of my targeting. Oh, they're max speed? Oh, no, I ate up a speed drop. I didn't drop Groudon speed, sorry. I was super confused for a moment. Okay, Spatial Rend gets the KO onto it, but I still have to hit Origin Pulse onto Regieleki. Okay, we are going to connect. So it's a 2v1, but I took a lot of damage with both Pokemon. So, like, what is my opponent's final one now? Yveltal naturally makes the most sense. The Rock Tomb speed drop on Regieleki actually didn't really accomplish anything, which was frustrating. Because Regieleki is just so fast. It is Yveltal's the last one. Okay. Dynamax Palkia, Geyser into Yveltal. I don't remember if it was weakness policy on the Yveltal, so I don't want to potentially activate it, because... Actually, they have a guaranteed... Wait, are they slower? With Palkia, or are they not maxing? They went for Snarl. Yeah, they forgot about Dynamax. I don't know if they forgot about it, but like they were probably just expecting to KO, then survive, and then Max Darkness. But I think that's too greedy of a play to go for because, yeah, Geyser just KOs them as a result. That was a critical hit, but with Origin Pulse, we would have finished it off for sure. And even if we didn't, like, Yveltal could only knock out one of my 2 Pokemon the next turn. So that was definitely an interesting game where it's like, I mean, turn 1 was a swing of emotions, right? I think the main thing about Dugtrio is that it's so frail, so it's often only really going to be able to trap things. But it would have made for a really interesting interaction, because if the Groudon had gone for like a setup move, if they had one over just Precipice Blading there into the Dugtrio slot, or missed Precipice Blades, Kyogre would have been able to come out, and if I hit the Rock Tomb onto Regieleki, Rock Tomb plus Water Spout essentially. Yeah, it's not a guaranteed win. I guess you could protect Groudon, sacrifice Lecky, bring in Yveltal, Dynamax Yveltal, or Sucker Punch, but it would have put me in a really good spot. So, yeah. Either way, though, that is the power of Dugtrio in the Series 13 VGC format. And, yeah, I mean, it's certainly not the most incredible support Pokemon, right? But it has a really interesting ability. It's able to trap our opponents in, and ultimately, I had a lot of fun with it. So, that's what matters. Anyway, thank you so much, as always, for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoy. Leave any feedback down in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time. All right. Peace. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. So thank you so much. Would really appreciate, once again, any feedback on what you liked about the editing style and things that you think we can improve on for the future. Once again, the goal is to continue to stay true to the content that this channel has always made, but speed things up a little bit and also make things more informative and just make it more digestible for people that might not follow competitive Pokemon or VGC very intently. So yeah, would appreciate any feedback. And in the end, I'd say we were able to make Dugtrio work, right? We were never going to be able to turn this into a sweeper, but in the end, it was able to enable a lot of its partners, and we even got to use Memento, which I think is awesome. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.